The gatekeeper. Ugh, that word just sounds negative. Who wants to deal with a gatekeeper? But hey, for everyone listening to this, we all grew up in the gatekeeper era. As much as it might make you cringe, authorities from up high have long had a massive say in your professional future. Think about all those times you've stirred with bated breath, waiting to hear if you were accepted or rejected to a school or job. The gatekeeper owned you. You needed their permission. They've long fixated on education credentials. Imagine them taunting you. I don't care about your wonderful experience. You better have this degree or these certifications. If not, we won't let you in. Ridiculous, right? But that's long been our reality, especially in technology disciplines. Tired of it all? Good, so am I. Luckily, the world is changing. Credentials aren't what they used to be, and neither is education. Your path to digital leadership and your career is more in your control. You can work around the gatekeepers, but you need a strategy. Want to learn more? Keep listening. Welcome to the Rising Digital Leaders Show. I am your host, Matthew Doan. Today's organizations are powered by digital capabilities, cloud, data science, cybersecurity, and much more. To be competitive, we must have tech-savvy leaders steering the ships. But these people don't come out of thin air. We must develop them. This show is for the technical experts of the world, those brave souls that feel unheard and lost in the crowd, but know they were born to lead. We need you to rise, to become impactful digital leaders. In these episodes, we help you undergo a self-transformation, developing the mindset and skill set that'll massively enhance your abilities, influence, and career potential. We take a different approach, pulling in lessons from philosophy, psychology, neuroscience, and history to enrich the professional and personal aspects of your life. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe to the Rising Digital Leaders Show. Now, let's dig in. Hello there. I have 5 key points to make in this episode. If you're an aspiring digital leader, you need to hear them. Let's dive in. Point number 1, standardized education pushes everyone towards the mean. Let's start with a little time travel. In the early 1800s, after America's revolutionary generation died off, Romanticism gripped the country. In this movement, we said goodbye to classical education, which focused on studying Latin and the great books of ancient Greece and Rome. Our intellectual curiosity grew tremendously wide. The industrial era was gaining steam, and it opened up all sorts of questions around science, psychology, management, and other disciplines. The entire American education curriculum changed to something diverse and hard to wrangle. The economy demanded specialists of all types, from the engineer to the business strategist. But the old school models of individualized tutoring or small room teaching weren't scalable. We needed to industrialize education, and therefore we needed to standardize credentials. That's when standardized testing made its way from Europe to the United States. It started with mandatory written exams in the pre-Civil War era and escalated to college entrance exams by the turn of the century. Thousands of tests flooded the market, infiltrating our schooling system. The education industry was born. In 1905, we even started to quantify human intelligence through the IQ test. Don't get me started on the value of this one. As the world wars got underway, we saw a sharp increase in standardized testing of human abilities. It was a race to categorize potential officers from the enlisted, or more generally, to separate the high potential from the mediocre. At this time, John Dewey, an American philosopher and education reformer, was horrified at this push towards quantifying people, lamenting how society was becoming mechanical and merely concerned with pushing people towards the mean. The main idea here was to equalize the playing field, make sure everyone in a given category had the same skills. As populations grew and demand for specialists exploded throughout the 1900s, it only got worse. college admissions officers needed something to filter the influx of applicants. That's when the SAT and similar tests began to spread like wildfire. And with the American economy booming, employers had tons of need for capable employees. Just like the military, they needed the ability to filter and sort these people based on their credentials. Resumes used to be focused on qualitative experience, but they changed over time. Employers started requiring specific degrees from higher education institutions, as well as certifications. It became a clear filter. No paper, no entry. Fast forward to the new millennium, and we see the digital age take hold. The same mentality towards credentials held true. To this day, most organizations require a stamp from an accredited body for you to be deemed worthy. This is problematic for lots of reasons, but as technology capabilities become the lifeblood of modern business, it's even more unsustainable. Capable people without credentials are being stonewalled, and employers are missing out on these people because they lack formal credentials. So there you have it, a quick synopsis of the last 150 years in American education. That summarizes point number 1. Standardized education pushes everyone towards the mean. Now that you have a little history in your back pocket, let's move on to the next idea. Point number 2. Gatekeepers force you to play a game of compliance. Time to introduce gatekeepers. Since standardized education took hold, the gatekeeper has reigned supreme. Using standardized requirements for what qualified looks like, gatekeepers determine who is in and who is out. In higher ed, gatekeepers are admissions offices. With employers, recruiting teams serve this role, enforcing requirements set by hiring managers and industry benchmarks. Don't get me wrong, we need gatekeeper models. We can't let everyone into the same school or business. We want capable people in the right positions. And heck, if you have someone building you a house, you'll want to see some authoritative credentials. Credentials make sense in some circumstances. But I'd like to zoom in on a central issue. Gatekeepers bring their filters to the table, and for decades, they've held near and dear to those requirements. If you're in the digital arena, you know what I'm talking about. Employers ask for a meaty list of certifications and at least one notable degree, coupled with significant experience. It doesn't matter if you're in IT architecture, cybersecurity, analytics, or agile coaching, gatekeepers hold the line, saying, "Show me the creds." At times, it seems like they're asking for too much. They've set the bar so high that many people self-filter out. Potentially capable applicants don't even try. This is a compliance game, and most tech professionals feel compelled to play it. They spend their early mornings, nights, or weekends studying up for certifications just to check a box. Now, they might be genuinely interested in learning Kubernetes, threat hunting, or multi-cloud architecture, but they'd rather be hands-on, in the sandbox, not trying to reverse engineer a standardized test. The gatekeeper model forces us to be compliant with requirements. Rather than exploring our curiosities and gifts, we're forced to master an exam that we're allowed to then quickly forget. Acquiring credentials, whether a degree or a certification, might feel good on the surface, but that doesn't mean we're actually capable. In most cases, it just proves we're great at passing standardized tests. So that's point number 2. Gatekeepers force you to play a game of compliance. Point number 3. Continuing to play the gatekeeper game limits your career potential. Early in your career, working with gatekeepers is likely your best way to get moving. You'll need to accumulate a series of wins in order to be given a chance, a foot in the door. You can get this in the form of degrees, certifications, badges, certificates of completion. These are all just forms of credentialing yourself. However, there's a time when you reach a negative return on investment. It's an inflection point when you need to say enough to the gatekeeper model. The time and place looks different for everyone, but if you're looking to elevate your career and reach higher levels of leadership, you need to stop playing the gatekeeper game at some point. Why? Since gatekeepers encourage compliance and regressing to the mean, that means you'll end up in a crowded space. You'll look like everyone else. At that point, You aren't differentiating yourself. You're simply competing. Becoming a digital leader, someone with immense impact and a prosperous career, requires you to step outside the norm. The modern world, especially with social media, rewards uniqueness. The more you bet on your innate interests and skills, the more you operate in your zone of fire. Elevating your leadership game requires that you stand out. And there are many ways for you to do this, depending on your local context. Some examples: drafting a new strategy for your organization, re-engineering new ways of working, given the hybrid model that we're all trying to figure out. Another thing might be building relationships across your business that reinforce and boost your digital organization's mission. Or another opportunity could be learning coaching skills and working to develop other people in your organization. Notice how these are all permissionless methods of growth. You do them on your own accord, knowing they're for the betterment of yourself and the community. While everyone else is competing with each other in the standardized credentials game, you're running your own race. Embracing your uniqueness makes you a more capable person, and it makes you attractive as a leader. Most important, this approach frees you from the clutches of the gatekeeper. The key to upward mobility is displaying higher forms of leadership within your discipline. There's no certification for that. It's pure self-initiative. All right, that's point number 3. Continuing to play the gatekeeper game limits your career potential. That leads me to point number 4. New education and employment trends are encouraging uniqueness. We're seeing the indications of seismic shifts in higher education and business. The evolutions mean that it's a prime time to develop yourself as a leader. I'll first talk about education. In general, most studies reveal that the value of undergraduate and graduate degrees is trending downward. Gen Z, in particular, is beginning to test out the idea of skipping higher education and develop monetizable skills through other means instead. The exception, as NYU professor Scott Galloway points out, is in going to the premier schools like MIT, Harvard, or anywhere in the Ivy League. The prestige of those credentials still serve as a launching pad for premier career opportunities. Regarding certifications, if you look across social media, many technical professionals are beginning to revolt against the idea of certifications, even canceling them. I know, absurd, right? I've seen so many stories on LinkedIn recently where people who've racked up all the certifications that they were told to get are still getting no bites from employers. The reality is that these people may now look too stale, too generic. So their credential stacking strategy has backfired. They aren't interesting and unique, so they're not getting opportunities. Crazy, right? So, with these shifting wind patterns with education, where does this leave the ambitious digital professional? There are a number of models available. You've probably experienced self-paced, on-demand courses through platforms like Coursera, Udemy, or Skillshare. Or check out Google's new program, their professional certificates route, where you can earn badges to demonstrate skills. Another one I'd suggest, though, is cohort-based courses. As an internet-native form of learning, cohort-based courses fixate on community and accountability. The idea is that students come together virtually for a targeted experience. All are seeking a similar personal upgrade. The cohort members sprint together over several weeks to collectively wrestle with and develop a practical understanding of a topic. Everyone's in it together, pulling each other along. Students build relationships with the professors and each other. The courses don't rely on generic and dry case studies. They dive into nuanced and complex topics that people and organizations are struggling with right now. And with this cohort-style approach, working together encourages higher completion rates, stronger relationships, and more takeaway impact. If you want to see an example, check out maven.com or the Alt MBA, founded by Seth Godin. Those are premier examples of places to develop your skills as a leader. I also mentioned how employers are changing. Reputable publications like NPR and Business Insider are reporting how major companies are dropping degree requirements, especially in the tech industry. This artificial requirement has proven limiting. The gatekeepers were missing out on tons of qualified technical professionals. You can expect certifications to fall soon too. Not everyone, not all at once, but it'll happen. As I talked about in my interview with CyberVista CEO Simone Petrella, an education revolution is underway. The idea of, quote, being qualified is undergoing a radical shift. So that's point number 4. New education and employment trends are giving you flexibility. Now on to the last point, point number 5. You don't need permission to ascend into higher levels of leadership. It's on you to unlock the career you dream of. The gatekeepers are losing their power and even modifying their own requirements. Digital professionals have such ripe opportunity going forward. Since every business is now a digital business, those with technical know-how and leadership abilities are primed for an amazing career run in the years ahead. But you need to stand out. If you look too much like everyone else, employers will look at you like a commodity. They'll pick the low-cost option. And you don't want to be the low-cost option. You want to be remarkable and command market premiums for your unique value proposition and your abilities. So, in addition to exploring alternative education models like we discussed, what works today? Some principles include building a body of work that you can point to, that people can find and validate. Establishing an online presence that pulls opportunities to you rather than you chasing those opportunities. Think of creating a personal brand. Another one would be taking a chance on being different, showing your uniqueness at work rather than looking like everyone else. And lastly, thinking through how a leader in your space should operate and then acting that way. Here's the idea. You don't need permission. Once you've established a foothold in your career with base credentials like degrees and certifications, move beyond that. Leave the gatekeeper model behind. Start running your own race and bringing your authentic self to work. Be the unique leader that you know you can be. Create your own white space and then just go fill it. So that's point number 5. You don't need permission to rise into higher levels of leadership. All right. In summary today, we discussed 5 major points. Number 1, standardized education pushes everyone towards the mean. Number 2, gatekeepers force you to play a game of compliance. Number 3, continuing to play the gatekeeper game limits your career potential. Number 4, new education and employment trends are giving you more flexibility. And finally, number 5, you don't need permission to ascend into higher levels of leadership. Thanks for hanging with me. I hope this inspires you to think differently about your career and take some massive action. Talk soon. This is your host, Matthew Doan. Thank you for listening to the Rising Digital Leaders Show. Again, my mission is to help you elevate your career as a digital leader and live a thriving life. I hope this episode sparks new thinking and helps you take meaningful action in your world. If you enjoyed the experience, I'd be so grateful if you subscribed and left a 5-star review. That's it for now. Until next time, my friends, stay virtuous.